And here we go. We're going to have HS0 with a really nice 4-man res coming in. Team's going down. He's walking back. He's going to save the game here, though. Oh, what? This is not the one I was expecting. Huh.
Only 2, man.
Only
but
2, man. I mean, I guess it keeps a lot of people alive.
But not enough about that. We need to talk about Evolite with his big dick plays on the Pharah. Look at him coming in. He's pouncing. He's pouncing. He only has 11 health. Already getting, there's pop. There's 1. There's 2. Are we going to get the 3? There is number 3. Bam!
Solid series, but they had the right chops. But on to now for Valkyrie's play of the game.
I think we know what this is. Oh yeah, Valkyria are coming in. He sees the charge, he goes in, knocks out the Reinhardt. Make sure he can just smack a few more people, and then watch this. Doesn't even care about the turret.
Point at some point. That
play of the match gonna be shooted out here. I assume this is gonna be that one inside the building.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
He sniffs it out like a fucking drug dog. Finds all of Lennyface, and oh my god, just murders them all. Oh, Resdev, we don't give a damn. I'm gonna keep swinging this hammer. Win a map in overtime.
Yeah.
And so play of the match could be TK Thrifty on the Reaper here. There were a lot of good choices available, but it's going to be the one that closed off this first round. So he just walks in. Oh, you want to help me get in here? Thanks, buddy. Die. And it still would have been the under. As the play of the match going to be Albino Joe on the Mercy here. This was pretty nice, actually. After Shooter Guy spends all that time stalling out on the points, Albino was just like, keep it up, buddy.
Guys, you can't teach that level of Overwatch.
Hello, it's me. I was wondering
that is the
if
definition
after
of
all
awkward.
these years you'd like to meet to go over everything. They say the time's supposed to heal ya, but I ain't done much healing. Hello, can you hear me? I'm in California dreaming.
TK Thrifty with the frag on the opposing Pharah. Very good start. UTech jumps in on this Winston, disrupting the high ground out of Lennyface.
I've forgotten how it felt.
Lennyface, they gotta go drop him out of this cart eventually. They're kind of just casually watching it. They're not gonna get to this cart in time because they were too busy testing the high ground. Are you fucking kidding me?
Got Dave live.
For everything that I've done, but when I call you, never seem to be home.
Seriously, there's not a coach in the world that's able to teach you that.
Hello everybody and welcome to the BOL Season 3 pregame show with me, Albino Joe, and UTech, my co-host. How you doing,
Hey,
UTech?
hey. Not too bad, not too bad. It's been a pretty good day. Got some wings. Ready to play and see some Overwatch. Oh
Well,
man,
Billy.
can you believe it? We're on week 10 of season 3. Where has the time gone, man?
Fuck yeah. I'm pumped for the season. There's a lot of very contingent games coming up. But before we get into that, I would also like to introduce another co-host or guest, I should say, AJS0. How are you doing?
Doing really, really good, man. Excited to be here. Not playing this week, just watching how the season's gonna unfold as my team's on the bye.
Yeah, how you feeling securing that third place spot?
Well, traditionally in the baddie leagues, the third seed is a very lucky seed, so we're planning to continue that tradition this season by taking it all the way.
Oh man, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, seed number 3. Oh dear, God bless. We'll see how that goes for you.
Oh man.
Anywho, before we get into anything, I really want to talk about these standings right out the gate. So something that everyone should know right now is the 2 games tonight are Wangjiang Tower versus Winstoni Bologna, where should Wangjiang Tower take 1 game off of Winstoni Bologna, they become first seed. But if Winstoni Bologna can pull the sweep, a 3-0, they are first seed. So that's actually kind of an important game. But UTech, the more important game, very aggressive Genji
baby.
versus Lenny Face. What do you think about that one?
Very aggressive Genji versus Lennyface. All right, I'll tell you what I know. I think I'm really rooting for Lennyface to at least win the first 2. Then I want to see a real game happen where Lennyface will be fighting for their lives and very aggressive Genji fighting for their sanity. Because if you think about it, very aggressive Genji was on a 9-game losing streak.
Like 9
And
or
then-
10 or something
Yeah,
like that.
9
Yeah,
or 10. And at that point, you got to think that's very demoralizing. That's very, that's got to break your spirit. But at the same time, when Lennyface only had 4 wins total, and so that has to be demoralizing. So it's basically it's two like lion seals or what is it, elephant seals going at it and just kind of like bombastically waving their bodies at each other, seeing which one is gonna kind of fall over first. But
That's poetry.
that is sheer poetry right there. But I'm still excited to see these 2 guys play it out because no matter what happens, if I feel like one team or the other is gonna have to make some troll picks here, and that in itself is gonna be hilarious to see, and I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, we kind of started seeing that last week out of Lennyface. Towards the end of the night, their picks, it really didn't look like they gave a damn. And maybe that was because that was Wangjiang Tower. I don't know if Lennyface realistically thought they were going to take a map, especially the way like that first map or 2 had played out for them. But maybe tonight, if things don't start hot, they're going to just commit to the troll picks right away. So I would love to see that with everything on the line. You know, fucking bring me the Torbjorn, bring me the Bastion.
And who knows? I mean, if you think about it, there's a new meta coming. You know, there were some changes. McCree got a buff to his flashbang. Zarya got a buff to her ult. A few other changes. So a little mix around here and there. So they might all of a sudden find that, oh hey, their star healer is really good at Tracer, or their person who they've had on tank, Lennyface, someone who's been on tank all season. Oh hey, maybe he's the best healer in the game. Could be a better Mercy than you, Swift.
Whoo. Shots fired. What do you have to say to that?
We'll see you in the finals.
Oh, God. You heard it here, folks. Folks, not first. Not necessarily the first time. But you heard it. So, AJS, another question for you. Kind of along the same vein of what we've been talking about. Who do you think Lennyface has a shot? What percentage
No.
would you give them? What percentage would you give them?
So, the thing is, Badge has, over the last so many weeks, they've won 1 map since week 4 of the season. Lennyface has won more maps in that stretch than them. But it's still it's really hard for me to imagine Lennyface winning here. I don't think we've ever seen anything out of them that seems like they have it in them to win 4 straight maps, because that's what they would actually have to do. Because they'd have to win a tiebreaker after forcing a 3-0 as well. And they'd be doing that on 2 consecutive map picks out of Badge. I think Lennyface's chance, we're probably looking at about 10 to 15%. I think one of these games, Chromatic and Josh Danko just go off and hard carry and win a map. And that's it. Season over for Lennyface.
That does sound like something that's very probable to happen. I would not put it past those 2 star players to just kind of drag their team kicking and screaming into a victory, but somehow part of me thinks that against Lennyface they don't necessarily need to be dragged kicking and screaming. But you never know, stranger things have happened. So on that vein, AJS, I also want to know, what do you think about the Winstoni Wangjiang game?
I also think that's a really low chance of Winstoni winning. Not as low as Lennyface, but I would maybe 20% is the chance I'd give Winstoni. I don't think they're as good as their record. I know there's a lot of people in the league that have said the same. They've had a ridiculous number of games where they've played against teams playing their backup player, and they've had a lot of close maps along the way. I think they're a lot closer to my team, CU in the finals level, than they are to Wangjiang's. And Wangjiang only has to win 1 map to secure the first seed. And I can't imagine after the season they've had Wangjiang Tower ever getting swept. There's just too much skill on that team where you guys will accidentally win a map. Even if you're like not playing intelligently, you're so good at Overwatch individually that you'll accidentally win a map.
I like that.
And that's a good thing to have to fall back on. I mean, even in like professional level in games, some teams, that's their bread and butter. Is even when like shit gets intense, they're just really skilled, and then you can accidentally win maps because you can out aim your opponents.
Well, never know with the 30 factor. That's also a big factor, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I think for Winstoni to have a chance tonight, there was a stretch from like week 4 to week 7 where 30 was playing at his peak. And he's been, I mean, obviously he's been good other weeks, but those were the weeks where he was just like super insane dominance. Every time you looked, he was getting multiple kills and his team was capping points. 30 has to play like that tonight, in addition to his team stepping up to have a chance at 3-0.
True.
Here's the question I bring up, because within this week, Wangjiang has not faced Winstoni Baloney since some of these changes have come in, and one of the big changes is definitely to McCree, and with the flashbang. So now it's a lot easier for him to get headshots, like basically 100 times easier, or if not 5 times easier, just to get a headshot right after the flashbang with the slow. Do you think we're gonna see 30 just stay on a McCree, or is he gonna go more on a mainstay with the soldier?
You want to take a
I'd expect 30's probably going to play a little more McCree than he has been, which he's already been pretty confident picking the McCree. I would think there's a good chance he's going to play more McCree than Soldier tonight. I think he's always, when all things are equal, preferred the McCree slightly, but he still won't hesitate to switch. I mean, 30's one of those players where even when something's going well for a map, he likes to switch his hero every map or two just to keep the other team guessing. But I would expect maybe like 2/3 McCree, 1/3 Soldier for his split between the two.
Yeah, I guess it also depends on what kind of maps are also drafted, especially seeing as Winstoni Baloney definitely favors the King of the Hill maps over anything else. Nepal seems to be something that always gets played every week, unless I'm thinking wrong.
I feel that's true. That's there's a couple of maps that people like to gravitate to: Nepal, Ilios. I feel like there's been a lot of Kings Row that's been played this season. I wish I took all those statistics, but after this week, I might be able to break that all down in all the videos, from all the videos.
Speaking
yeah.
of statistics, though, after this week we'll have play of the game champion. So I've been keeping track of everyone who's had a play of the game, and then just been counting how many plays of the game they've had. Obviously, these are people who've had a great impact for their team, if not, making that play, cinching them to win, or at least getting them that extra objective. Would you like to hear the at least the top 5 people?
Oh Jesus, I'm gonna guess Danko's one.
Well, you would definitely be correct because Josh Danko is number 1. He's had 6 plays of the game. I'm pretty sure they're all with Farah. If I'm wrong there, I don't want to be right because pretty much every time I've seen him get a play of the game, it's been Farah, and he's had 6 plays of the game. Now think about that. In what week was it? I believe it was week 4 or 5. I could be way off. He had 3 plays of the game, all with Farah, all
Yep.
ults, all raining from above. I mean, that's a lot of justice.
That was actually week 4 against you in the finals, and actually he got 2 other plays of the game on week 6 against Wangjiang Tower. So he's been taking down some tough opponents with his Farahs. At least those two matches he was. Yeah, that's impressive.
So then after that, we have the Weeb Man himself, Hook Resets, or formerly known as Wee. Pretty sure most of the plays of the games he's gotten has been Weeb Stick Man, owner of the Weeb Hut. After that, we got you, Joey. We have Albino Joe at 5, so you're tied with Hook Resets.
Yeah, buddy.
It pretty much res plays of the game, make every game. Then after that, we have 30 with 4 plays of the game, getting many of those high noons and also tech visors, if not just out aiming anyone he's 1v1ing. And then our 5th person that we have is actually Evo Light. Evo Light's gotten 4 plays of the game, and I believe the majority of those were with Farah.
Yeah,
So,
and he's improved a lot over the course of the season. I mean, he went from someone who's barely played this game, who's hardly picked up the game. Actually, I think he probably bought it specifically for this league. Am I wrong?
No, I think you might be right about that.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, actually looking at it, he was level 61 at the start of this league, and man, I want to know what the fuck he's at right now.
149 right now, so
Oh.
that's a lot of Overwatch he's played in the past 2 months. And I agree with you guys. I think if we were doing like a post regular season awards show, if most improved player was on there, I can't think of anyone off the top of my head I would even consider for the award over Evolite. In week 2 or 3, when I was doing my own, I've been doing some internal player power rankings, and he was very low. And he obviously benefits a ton from playing with 30, but I think he would shine on any team in the league, and I expect he's going to be able to showcase that next season, assuming he continues to play the game. Very impressed with how much better he's gotten.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. MVP would be, well, I shouldn't say MVP, but most improved player of the season. If he doesn't win it, he's definitely a very close runner-up. I also can't think of anyone who would be competing with him as well for that spot. I know some other players have been ranked low at the start and also have kind of proven to do well. Blabur might be in there. Scotch might be in there.
well, then maybe that's something we're gonna have to do is have power rankings for postseason.
Oh yeah, and I mean that's we
those are coming.
do an awards an awards show or some honorable mentions to players. I'm sure we'll do that at the end. I mean this is week 10. The season's not over yet. We do have one more match, and it looks like it's about to come to a start here. Winstoni Baloney versus Wangjiang Tower. Yeah, it looks like everyone's ready for it. Does anyone have any last words to say before Wangjiang Tower? Yeah, I won't say anything. Anyone have anything else to say?
I'm excited for the game, and it should be a good one.
All right. Well, with that being said, Jim, I'm coming after you. None of my toilets have sold yet, but they will. And yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Batty Overwatch League. Coming at you for the final week of our regular season. I'm AJ0, joined here with Failed Destiny to bring you Winstoni Baloney versus Wangjiang Tower, the matchup potentially for the first seed. And these teams look like they're both ready to jump right into things, so we're going to be jumping into Hollywood in just a sec here. Failed, real quick, how are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling fantastic. This matchup should be so explosive that I've got a backup computer ready. So we'll see how it goes.
Well, that's a good call because there has been a lot of smack talked between these two teams leading up to this matchup. Albino Joe has been very bluntly telling Winstoni Baloney he does not think they are nearly as good as their record and that they've been lucky with a lot of the situations that play out this season. And some of the Winstoni guys have been taking that really personally. Tonight, this is the match where they can kind of prove, even if they don't win this match, this is where they have a chance to prove, like, hey, we can hold up with Wangjiang Tower. We are playing to win this season outright.
Yeah, and for a lot of those watching right now, this could be a preview of what the finals ends up being if the season holds true. So if any one team shows up much more than the other, that team might need to then practice if they take a loss this evening. So, yeah, this, like I said, it should be explosive. There should be a lot going on. We're seeing a pretty standard pick coming out of the Wangjiang squad. I almost called them the Lijiang squad. On the opposite side, yeah, Winstoni Baloney. They're not actually running the Winston, but this team is still something to watch out for. 30, if he is going to play, that soldier is probably going to be pretty sick. So I'm excited. So
yeah, I'm
we'll
curious to see
on.
if the patch changes have much of an effect on these teams. Reinhardt did receive slight buffs, hammer speed, 10% fast there being the pretty notable one. There was also the Zarya buffs, so we might be seeing Jim maybe playing a little less Winston than he has recently because he feels confident on those picks.
Yeah, we'll end up seeing what happens. I don't expect to see any Roadhog still because people aren't very happy with him overall, but wow, that's a fast push right out of the gate.
Yeah, UTech going up, taking the high ground, securing that for his team as they're walking behind this Reinhardt shield. They're going for a death battle in the stairwell here. As,
yeah, I think they're going
Jim's
for, like,
trying to hold it. I don't know what he was thinking with that charge there, but he's going to get the kill on the shooter dive before going down. Both Reinhardts down.
Yeah, they tried to get an early pick in to see if they could kind of take control, but both teams have lost someone at this point, so I don't know how well the hold's going to go, and they're being pushed back from Evelite and Treemeister.
Yeah, going to try to get out with their lives here, but the heals for Wangjiang being chased down. They're going to make it behind the Reinhardt shield, though, so they did get some good ult charge out of that. Albino Joe does have a Resurrect available already, and ooh, that's a big pick out of Wile E. Coyote. Now we have numbers advantage for Wangjiang, and UTech immediately pouncing on it. So is Shooter Die charging in, and a big hammer going to be dropped by Jim, though, trying to stop this and get down. Dona's Scotch, though.
Albino Joe does have his ultimate. Yeah, Chillout ended up staying alive using that ult to try and take down, 30 trying to take down Chillout, and yeah, just battles abound.
Yeah, gonna be dropped by Simic there, and that should be enough to cap this point. It's just Wile E. Coyote, a lonely Anna, retreating away from this point because he is not gonna make a play out of the life.
Yeah, and Scotch walks pretty far forward. He should be able to get back up in time. Not a big deal, unless he gets pushed even further back with where the spawn is.
And yeah, Scotch does respawn late, so he's coming from the far spawn. A nice start from Wangjiang, and UTech has popped the Winston ults very deep.
Yeah, I don't know if he's trying to be a distraction or what, but
yeah, I think he might be getting a little too. Yeah, I agree. I think he's getting a little too hypey there. But we've got a pause request coming out, and a Nevermind request. So that was awkward. Thanks, 30. Alright, so going into this next fight, there's a really good start out of Wangjiang. There's going to be a lot of ults available. Wangjiang are close on a lot of the ults they don't have. Or sorry, Wangjiang, they just got those ults. They've got 3, but there's 5, nearly 6 available for Winstoni Baloney. So watch how Winstoni takes this defensively. As Chillout's popping the first ult of the fight. UTech does take out 30 very early in this fight. A nice hammer coming out of Jim, but TK Thrifty dropping a big Reaper ult in the back. They have split Winstoni in 2, but not gotten any kills. TK Thrifty, T-Back, Shooter Die, Albino Joe, all going down. And that was only 4 ults committed out of Winstoni Baloney.
And 2 on the opposite end ended up being used as well. So I'm a little surprised that it went that decisively in the favor of Winstoni Baloney, but it's good to see that they're showing life, as so far they've just kind of been rolled over a little bit.
Yeah, Wangjiang not wasting any time. They've been pushing the tempo very well in this game. Chillout goes in, he gets 30, but does lose his life for it. Probably a good trade for these guys, though.
Yeah, and Thrifty is just being as annoying as possible. Ooh, the solo ult out of Albino Joe to pick up Chillout. Chillout then takes down Wily Coyote, UTech dropping Jim, Thrifty dropping Scotch. So that's a lot of members down. And yeah, there's that continued push that we're originally seeing.
Yeah, UTech's pushing forward, keeping 30 well away from this cart. It's looking like this is going to be the second point capped for Wangjiang, as Treemaster is just trying to buy time for his team. I don't think he's going to be able to do enough there, and his teammates seem to agree. They've retreated off of this point. No, they've not. Jim's coming in. The nano boost onto Jim, looking for the hammer. Only going to get 2, but Albino Joe was one of them. And Albino Joe is going to die. Now 30's coming in off the angle.
But the car gets delivered anyways. So people just stepping off the cart far enough. And ooh, yeah, they're pretty deep now. Providing some harass. UTech up on the cliffside, and Thrifty, he's a Pharah, he's forgotten how to fly, and he's just walking around, dies to Treemeister.
Yeah, TK30 did switch off the Reaper out of that Pharah. He wasn't, didn't feel like he was super effective on that Reaper. And 30's been dying early in a lot of these fights, so maybe he's been a little more confident that he can bust up Pharahs. Evelite is looking for Bandy's first Reaper ult, and he somehow gets a kill with it, just walking into the enemy team. That's 3 kills for Winstoni.
That was very surprising. A little bit awkward. Did he fall from the top? I didn't see.
I don't think so. I think he just literally walked in, didn't even have to Wraith form to get in there. Just didn't get dot.
Yeah. And when it comes to ults, so there's 3 on the side of Winstoni Baloney, 4 on the opposite side. Shooter is really close. UTech's 2/3 of the way to his, so we're gonna have probably another explosive couple fights.
But TK50 dies before T-Mix Sound Barrier comes out. Not great start.
Yeah, that might slow them down. Ooh, the res comes out.
Yeah, watch Jim. Oh, gonna miss the charge through the back line here, as now Winstoni's gonna be dropping their Sound Barrier.
Yeah,
Trudai
pretty
looking
low.
for the hammer.
Ooh.
Oh, and a nice rocket barrage. Gonna take out Wily Coyote in the background. Trudai unfortunately gonna have his ult blocked by the shield as the self-destruct coming in deep. Gonna pick out Chillout as these Reinhardts are just doing the gay battle on the cart here with their hammers. But it's looking like Winstoni's pushing Wangjiang back.
Yeah, it ended up being a successful hold. Ult's pretty much used except for 1 on each of the teams. UTech's gonna have his. Albino Joe's gonna have his really soon too. It's non-stop fighting. There's a pause for everyone to get ready, and yep, are you ready? Yep. Okay, let's fight.
Yeah, Wangjiang is playing this very high tempo. This is the Dragon Force of Overwatch games, as Wangjiang moving back onto the start. UTech once again looking for his jump off the flank. Shudai dropping back for his second, maybe the first time he's done so all game.
Yeah, his shield ended up going down, so pretty much going down, and needs to be able to hold it up. Otherwise, it's going to take longer to recharge. So just playing a little bit of a longer game. And yeah, now they've got some of the members there. Albino Joe's got his ult, so I think people are going to start playing a little bit more recklessly to try and get this cart moving
30 does
forward.
go down as well. That's usually the sign for Wangjiang here, as they're slowly pushing it. Now UTech, there we go, finally going balls deep. He gets left in the back line, but immediately woken up. Tac Visor coming out of Chillout.
Ooh, and the nano boost onto Jim, who's got the ult, and it's blocked by Shooter Die. Someone does end up dropping T-Mic, and then Albino Joe as well. This looks like a successful hold. There's only like a couple minutes left, and it's Chillout and UTech against the world, and they're gonna try and run back to their team, as it's probably just one more push. Unless
yeah,
it's
that was
really drawn out.
Really nice stall out of Jim. It wasn't the back-breaking ult, but it did buy time for 30 and Evelite to come out of spawn. Evelite drops a huge Death Blossom. And in a fight that I thought Wangjiang were going to win, Winstoni actually stopped the cart. And now we're looking at the very last fight of the game here. There is a lot of health missing on the side of Winstoni right now, but they're healing that up pretty fast.
Yeah, they're forming a line back here, and I'm a little bit worried for them. Shooter Die is dropping really low, and yeah, he goes down. So does Albino Joe. So they're essentially out of this fight, unless their team can stay on the cart long enough for them to get back. But it's going to be difficult.
Yeah, UTech did take out 30 up on the top there, but I don't think it was enough. Now, TK30 going for the big play. He only gets one with the Rocket Barrage, though. He had no distractions there, and it's looking like Wangjiang going to commit here. Jim drops the hammer. Shooter Die trying to block this D-Bolt, but it's still going to take out Chill Out as Albino Joe is trying to get in pretty aggressive, looking for a res if he needs to take it. Wangjiang losing a lot of bodies, but Albino Joe, he does not have the res available here, so that's going to be a team kill. And
did he solo on someone?
Yeah, it must have happened earlier there, and I didn't catch it.
Yeah, I didn't see it either.
Which I'm not surprised, given the game situation, you kind of have to take the tempo res there, because otherwise you're just committing to the last fight being outmanned.
Yeah, I almost wonder if he like fat fingered it though, because I didn't even see it happen if it was like 1 or 2. But
I mean, at least res is an ult that you can't fat finger if no one's dead, so he had to have brought somebody back.
True. It's just late game picking up 1, unless you're really certain, is just, in my opinion, so dangerous to do.
Yeah, but they were also in a situation where they weren't going to get their whole team back to the cart because there was only 15 seconds remaining. And I don't blame Albino Joe since they did lose some people early in that fight. That's when I'm assuming he dropped down the res to say, you know, I don't want to be going 4v6 into the last fight of the game.
The other
trying
option
to get a bigger res.
The other option is if he felt like he was going to go down and he could bring someone back up, it ends up meaning he stays alive and can get at least out of danger a little bit. I really like that change to Mercy. It makes her a little bit more survivable when she's got her ult available.
Yeah, that was a very needed change, and that's another common one-man res reason. But still, not a bad push out of Wangjiang, making it most of the way. They'll have a lot of opportunities to win here on defense. And as they're setting up on defense, we see a new pick coming out, UTech on the Zarya. For those of you unaware, Zarya, Graviton Surge, buffed in this patch. You can no longer jump out of it, I believe, with any ability in the game. Once you are sucked into that Graviton, you are fucked.
What about Orisa and her defensive stance? Because I thought she might be able to walk out of that, and then I'm not sure about Reaper's Wraith form either. But I know
there might be
Mercy
a few exceptions.
Yeah,
there might be a few exceptions, but I know Mercy can't fly out. I don't believe Tracer can jump out. I don't believe Genji can jump out. There's probably some exceptions, like there always is in Overwatch, but in general, most people aren't getting out.
Movements.
And the big one is that Mercy can't get out anymore, because a lot of the time Mercy would jump out of the Graviton Surge and then jump back in to res the people that died. That play can no longer happen. And Winstoni and Bologna are playing this very aggressively. We see Treemeister jumping up on top, but he's going to die really fast. But they do take out UTech on the other side of this fight. Winstoni and Bologna, they get 3 picks really fast here.
Yeah, Scotch ended up soloing Chillout, and Chillout was standing on his health pool. I am amazed that just happened, because Chillout, I think, is the best soldier in this league, and Scott just pistol whipped him to death. This is amazing.
Yeah, so, Shooter Die turning his back to every angle, but no one there behind the shield to help him. And this should be a clean cap.
Spicy today. Holy cow! It's already a quarter of the pie and a half, 2/3.
Yeah, that's gonna be cart capped from Winstoni Bologna saying, "Hey Wangjiang, we see you guys want to play fast. We'll play fast too."
That was absurd.
We might have a series on our hands.
That was absurd. I am very happy with Winstoni Bologna right now. They went in quick, hard, took out a bunch of people, and had some upset kills.
Yeah, there's been a teamfight 1, and there's only one ult charge out of it. Scotch with the res, the only one available after that, although there are plenty that are close. So keep an eye out. This next fight could get explosive depending on who gets the early frag. As Wangjiang, they're coming through the side here. They pick out Jim to start this fight.
Yeah, and Treemeister's...
Oh! 30 drops the 6-man Death Blossom! Are you serious?
Oh god. Right? Oh god. They're gonna feel that one tomorrow. I don't know if they're gonna be able to walk. Holy shit.
Yeah, you're worried about the res? Just kill the whole team at once.
Yeah.
You know, that is the downside to taking those close quarters fights. And like I said, these fights could get explosive if somebody charges a res at the start. Or charges an ult at the start. 30 does so. TK30 trying to match on the back end. He's going to pick up 3 himself, but Scott's going to bring them all straight back, and TK30 goes down for his trouble. Wile E. Coyote dies before he's able to get his ult off there.
Yeah, everyone's just so spread out now after the first series of fights. I'm not surprised that they're losing everybody. They should take the time to regroup and re-push. They have to be happy with what they've done so far. That was such a crazy push. To have 4 minutes and be able to go like 5, 10 more meters, I don't even know. And yeah, I think they'll get this next point if they keep playing like they have been. I think
So
that
we see 30 switching off the Reaper onto Soldier pretty fast. There's going to be 4 ults available for Winstoni, so I expect another fast fight on them. Just the res and the attack visor not available. As we see Treemeister kind of looking for a flank here. TK Thrifty is really deep. As Jin actually is forward on the cart, he drops a Graviton. It's going to force out the Tranquility, and Evelite's going to waste the Rocket Barrage there. As TK Thrifty and Chilla are picking up frags in this backline. That's 3 members of Winstoni down.
Yeah, Thrifty ended up picking up 2 people, and then Wile Coyote finished him at the end as he was low on health. So, I mean, they're at least trading. It's unfortunate that Evelite ended up using the ult only to have it be countered by T-Mix. But
yeah,
that's the name of the game.
I'd have to rewatch it there, but it looked like he ulted after the Tranquility, so
yes, he did.
That was a bit of a misplay out of him, and that's a big ult off the table.
Yeah, if they had an Ana, it would have been something that would have been okay if she could throw her nade down, but unfortunately, no Ana in sight, and that was a wasted ult. Ooh.
Alright, so we see you, Shooter Jai dropping the hammer, gonna get a few bodies down on the ground there. Wile Coyote the first to fall for Winstoni. As TK Thrifty again dropping the Death Blossom, puts down some damage, but Scotch immediately gonna bring them all back up. So we've got man advantage in favor of Winstoni Bologna right now. Now it's back to a 6v6 after Albino Joe drops his res.
Yeah, the Winstoni Bologna team is pretty fractured at the moment, and I think that's the reason they keep losing these fights. Is it's a 3v6 v3 essentially, as members just keep getting pulled apart or taking different battles at the same time. When you can't get some healing across the other side or any support for picking up any members, the team just falls apart. Now, I mean, we were praising them for how quickly they're there. 2.5 minutes at this point have passed, and they really need to start moving this card forward, as it's been in reverse.
Another swap out of 30 going over to McCree now, not feeling effective on that Soldier.
Yeah,
Chill out.
Up
Put up
top.
good damage from the high grounds. As TK Thrifty gonna fall, maybe this is the chance. Albino Joe does have a res available if he wants the tempo here.
Ooh, and Treemeister is going after Albino Joe. Albino Joe has to solo ult 1 in order to stay alive. And then we see a teammate ult coming out. Evelite did pick up UTech in time, and oh, now 30. That's an important drop. Pulling down the chill out. Oh, and
Evelite up there on the flank takes out 2, and he's gonna force Shooter Dive back. The last man standing. No, actually, oh, now TK Thrifty goes out. Yes, it is Shooter Dive, the last man standing. So this cart should start moving, but Wangjiang are not very far away here, and it looks like they want to keep fighting. They'll be able to fight before this cart gets to the door, at the very least.
yeah, the cart's finally moving forward. They've got 3 members there. All the others are walking in at this point now. It's really important that Scotch can stay alive and get an ult off if his team
Yeah, there's only
needs
30
it.
seconds to go, so this could be the last fight of the game for Winstoni, as they do open with a pick on TK Thrifty, and there's the Graviton Surge, but it
and they
doesn't
just
hit
murder
anyone.
Albino Joe.
Scotch gonna tempo res Wile Coyote. They want the man advantage for this fight. As
And he
Chill
will
Out
have
with
his
attack
ult
visor,
soon.
gonna pull Scotch off the point. Shooter Guy drops the hammer. He's laying it down, takes out Wile Coyote off this cart. It's just Jim and 30 and Treemeister playing very close to the Wangjiang spawn. TK Thrifty does get an ult.
And
but
UTech
he's-
takes down 30. So it's essentially Evelite against the world. Ooh, and he drops. So for our first map, yeah, we're gonna see
And that's it.
Wangjiang.
Wangjiang Tower have won the regular season. So let's real quick get into the mind of a 30 here and watch this sick play of the game. The consolation prize for Winstoni Bologna as they take the 2nd seed, because the play of the game is obviously going to be 30 as the Reaper in the side room here. Just Gonna let Wangjiang all come into this nice and close space. What are you guys all doing? I'm Reaper. Bam. They all die. Sextuple kill.
I like how it announced team kill, and then sextuple kill, and then team kill again. That's just, yeah, that's how you get murdered as a team. Oh, and someone even voted for 30 who wasn't on his team. That's nice of them.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that really felt like kind of a crash course in why Wangjiang Tower has been the team that's topped out our regular season. So many of those fights, I was watching them unfold, and I was like, all right, this is going good for Winstoni Baloney. They're going to win this fight. And then someone on Wangjiang Tower just makes an outplay in a bad situation, and they turn the fight around, and then suddenly they've got the guys coming back from spawn. They turn the fight, they push Winstoni back, and they're just, with all the time that Winstoni had to work with there, they never had many good fights on that second stretch of Hollywood.
Yeah, I was seeing pretty much the exact same thing. I was rather impressed with both teams, and it ended up being whoever got that edge, and it usually was Wangjiang, to just be able to pull forward, pull the fight together, keep their team together and not become fractured, and then continue to just win those fights, and either keep the cart where it was or keep the cart moving as much as possible. I was surprised that Wangjiang didn't deliver it all the way with how some of those fights were going, but that last stretch can be really difficult based on the team comps that are running right now, especially in the meta, that cart just wants to sit there unless you get a pretty good wipe.
Yeah, and the really big thing to me there was it seemed like every time that Jim got a Graviton Surge off, there was something ready from Wangjiang to answer. I don't think we saw a single team wiping Graviton Surge there, which was just really good discipline out of Wangjiang, saving, the Transcendence was that big Transcendence, the one time they really all got caught, and a lot of the other times they just weren't grouping up for backbreaker Zarya ults.
Exactly, and a few of the times when a really good series of ults did come out of Winstoni Baloney, it wasn't that Wangjiang had been grouped. It was simply that Evolite, when he had ulted, he aimed all over the place to pick up 3 members who were close by. Or when 30 had killed people, ignoring, obviously, the Reaper, he ended up picking up a couple members quick, just shooting off. And yeah, just impressive play out of both teams. So we'll see what ends up happening. Wangjiang gets to play on what I think is their least favorite map, Lijiang Tower. It's at least I think the map that they've lost the most on. So we'll end up seeing what happens here.
I believe it's the only map they've lost multiple times on, so you would be correct there. And yeah, I'm really interested to see what they do here.
They run the same comp every time, so...
Yeah, some teams will take the situation a little more seriously, some teams not as much.
Oh, you mean because they're already in the finals?
Yeah, and I'm just messaging 30 real fast. Alright, the teams are aware that Doomfist is not available. To anyone that maybe hasn't heard yet, Doomfist is not going to be available at all this split. Normally the rule with new heroes is 2 weeks from when they're released, and with Doomfist coming out on a Thursday, that would have put Doomfist out for the semifinals of the playoffs, and the team captains kind of agreed allowing him for 2 of the 3 rounds of the playoffs would have been stupid. So we were deciding between allowing him for all the playoffs and none of the playoffs, and we kind of agreed on that, Doomfist, he's a pretty powerful hero, very different type of hero, and we hate to see playoffs come down to, after 10 weeks of all these teams establishing storylines, we'd hate to see the playoffs come down to who can run Doomfist the best. So we agreed we're just not going to let Doomfist in for the playoffs. So if you're a big Doomfist fan, sucks to be you. Just like if you're a big Winstoni Baloney fan, it sucks to be you, because this game, not going to be super important, but these guys at least picking seriously, so hopefully we'll get some entertainment out of all this, as these guys are grouping up on the left side. 30 goes down pretty early.
Yeah, Jim drops as well. But, ooh, Wily Coyote picking up TK Thrifty, and we've got members on the point, and that's a quick cap. Yeah, this... Once they've got a hold, I think it's hard to kind of try and take over from Wangjiang. Winstoni Baloney, I'm sure without a doubt that they are going to try and murder the shit out of Wangjiang. We'll see how well they can end up doing that. 30's just firing away from this back end. I think he thinks he's playing a shooting gallery game, as he's not walking much past that circular line in front of him.
Yeah, and he was theoretically putting down good pressure, but he's going to lose 3 teammates when Wangjiang commits on the other end there, and he's going to be forced into a pretty deep retreat here. Waiting out spawn.
I don't know if this game is just much more relaxed because of that's just the way it is right now, or if because they know that they can't win it, that this game doesn't mean as much. But I'm not seeing everyone playing as hardcore as I would normally expect.
Yeah, and I also think that last map might have been an outlier. The tempo we were seeing out of the teams on attack was pretty absurd, and not something I think was sustainable, as we now see Winstoni Baloney coming in for a real fight. 30 trying to drop the Deadeye from the back, but I don't think he's going to be able to find anything with this. As Rocket Barrage coming down in the back line, Avalite takes one before he goes down. Now TK30 dropping his Rocket Barrage, going to take out one before he goes down.
Yeah, Scott just needs to get close enough. Can he get close
looking
enough?
for it, but Shooter Die drops the hammer. Get the hell off my points.
Yep, and it's essentially 6v2 or 3 now.
Bad time for 30 to get picked there. They had a chance at one more fight. As Winstoni, they're coming in off this backside, but they'll have a chance for a 5v5, but they're missing their best players. 30 does switch on to Tracer, so he is actually here in time to contest this point. As the Graviton comes out, I only gets one.
Yeah, no, Bino Joe quickly ults him to bring him back, and yeah, that Zarya ult, getting people on both sides of the building, and Avalite ends up dropping. He was the main one really on the point, and 30 runs in to drop immediately. So that's the first map of this series. We'll have possibly, or at least 2 more, maybe 4 more, depending on how it goes. Yeah, that ended up going pretty much how I expected. Even though it's Wangjiang's worst map, it doesn't mean they're the worst team. Because they got the map and they held it. They never gave it up.
Yeah, it just never seems like things got chaotic enough for Wangjiang to feel threatened there. I know that's something some of the players individually have told me. The reason they don't like King of the Hill so much is they feel like they're so much better than these teams, where a lot of King of the Hills come down to just one play in the madness, because so many of these, both teams are breaking 80%. And
exactly.
At that point, it's just one play that doesn't have to be very structured that can lose you that map. And we never really saw any chaos coming out of Winstoni, as both these teams now gonna meet up in the middle here, looking committed to the fight.
Yeah, it's weird that they're facing each other head on when the point is over on this side. I know it will unlock in 10 seconds, 5 seconds, soon to be. Yeah, the Winstoni Baloney ends up pulling off first, and yeah, they're gonna then retreat a little bit. Ooh.
Yeah, 50 goes down though. This could be the chance for Winstoni to re-engage, but they're not going to make it on the point in time. They do have a man advantage though.
I feel like
briefly.
They have to push it here if they can. 30's taking shots. Yeah, Albino Joe drops, Jim dropping Chill Out with that Fire Strike. And now we see some big hammers swinging on the point. Shooter Die alone off the point. And yeah, I think that chaos ended up happening like you had talked about. So when Winstoni Baloney is able to recap the point, 18% is
not ideal. They should have never let that cap go over in that situation, but it ends up working out. They cap the point. They only give up 18%.
Yeah, now Evelite and Thrifty are shooting each other. Thrifty has to run away as he takes enough damage to maybe have to get reset back to the ship. Scott pistol mercying a Reinhardt shield. I like it. Oh!
Ooh. Teammate gonna be denied the ult there. Both supports go down immediately for Wangjiang. Should be a 1-5 for Winstoni, who did not have to commit many ults to that as they take out 4 for just Jim.
Yeah, and Treemeister is almost going to have his ult, so even if they get up there, Thrifty just switched off of the Pharah and onto the Mei. So we're going to have essentially 5 ults on 5 ults, but UTech drops early from 30.
Yeah,
with
they'll
a
probably want to stall that one out. UTech at 93%. I don't think they're going to want to push one without that Graviton Surge. So we see some high ground being established here out of Wangjiang Tower.
Yeah, Wangjiang had pushed pretty far forward. It gets a little dangerous, though, when all of your members are confined to that small space. As they had learned in the previous map, they all ended up dropping to 30. So now they're giving their opponents some room to breathe, as long as they maintain control on the point. Ooh, that ult coming out, I think, a little bit early.
There we go, the Graviton Surge coming down. There should be a lot of opportunity to drop damage in there, but there's not actually that much going into the Surge. As Winstoni instead are going to turn this fight hard, but Albino Joe with the 4-man res bringing everyone back, and now it's a man advantage for Wangjiang. Everlight looking for some kills up top, but he only gets 1. Now Scotch picking up the 2. We're back to a 6v5.
Yeah, Albino Joe ends up dropping, so does Jim. And this is the chaos that we've been talking about earlier. Scotch does his best, does end up taking Shooter Die down, and Scotch is the only one on the point. So yeah, that's an impressive cap out of Winstoni Baloney. I like it.
There were guys in the area, but not actually on the point, and that's going to tie Lijiang Tower up 1-1 here. We head on to this third map.
And if you want to talk chaos, I think the previous map is pretty chaotic. I think this one as well is on par with so many entrances. There's the front 2, and then there's the side 2. Sometimes people will even come from behind if they've got a D.Va or a Pharah. We'll see what the teams end up doing. So far we've seen, essentially, once a team takes a good hold, like gets essentially a team wipe, they're the team that ends up winning the map. And third one, we'll see if that trend can continue, as the point's going to lock in 23 seconds. Members are out the door, chasing, running at each other, and UTech on the Tracer. I'm a little bit surprised, but like we said earlier, on this one it doesn't count for as much, but I mean, they help pretty well. I think you just had those stats if possible.
Yeah, he goes down pretty fast. Not a great Tracer debut, but not enough to stop him as he's not switching immediately, as there are a lot of bodies going down for Wangjiang here. This should be a pretty clean cap out of Winstoni.
Yeah, that was pretty darn quick. And now they're running out the front gate. They're going to try and hold here as well. It's a really good choke point. You have to work pretty hard to be able to get around them or provide enough damage to really push them back. Someone did call for what looks to be a little bit of a retreat, not to block that front gate, as the team's splitting up to watch multiple entrances. Jim's kind of on his own. Scotch flies over to him to provide some support, and and chill out. Just hanging out
making
on
a
the
smart
board by
play. He
himself.
takes out Everlight before everything starts too. It's gonna be a 1-for-1, but he has broken the line for his team to get onto this point. 30 goes down, and Albino Joe gonna go for the res onto Chillout. So there's now a 6v5 in favor of Wangjiang, as
And
Jim
it's a
dropping the
wasted
hammer.
ult, as multiple people just drop there, especially Albino Joe ulting Chillout, and then both of them dropping. And they're still gonna, it looks like, cap the point. Everlight's gonna try and do what he can. He's so close to an ult, but he drops before he's got an opportunity to get it and use it. But they did get the members off long enough.
Wily Coyote steps off there. Don't know if that was intentional or not, because he did have teammates close, and looked like 30 still wanted to contest there. But the point going over to Wangjiang, who are sitting on a lot of ults. This should be an explosive fight for both teams.
Yeah, Everlight is so close, and we know how much he likes to be able to rain justice. There's the D.Va ult.
Dropping the D.Va ult doesn't get anybody. Neither does TK50's Death Blossom, but they do take out Jim and 30 regardless. Good 2 picks, but Scotch, the hero, brings them back up.
Ooh, yeah, and Jim ends up dropping really quickly again. 30 gets his ult, but is blocked by UTech with the D.Va. Yeah, the contention on this point, Everlight picks up Albino Joe, Treemeister picking up Chillout, and then members just continue to drop from both sides.
Yeah, Scotch being hunted down as Jim and 30 come out of spawn. They look like they want to contest this. I'm not seeing what they're seeing, but Shooter Die gonna drop the hammer, secure
good
this
pin.
point hold for his team. And Teamic gonna get the boop on a Wile E. Coyote, finishing things off there. Nice hold out of Wangjiang.
Yeah, and at this point, they've taken the advantage percentage-wise, and now they seem to be in firm control of the point. We'll end up seeing them run, or Winstoni Baloney run to the front gate. Thrifty, gets taken down by 30. Headshot to clean that up. Lionel Joe says, I need my buddy back. And Thrifty's running back to the point. 82%. Getting
Yeah,
close.
there are some big ults available. And Shiloh does go down early. Teamic late with the ult to save his soldier. But they're still pushing Winstoni back a bit. They're going to have to go for a pretty awkward engage here. But Treemeister is established at the point. He's on the point solo. 30 gets Teamic with the Deadeye. Albino's go down as well, so that's no healing for Wangjiang Tower. And there's still a res available for Scotch. This should be good for Winstoni, as most of Wangjiang has dropped. Just Utek saw, and he knows he's not going to win this game on his own. Retreats and a recap for Winstoni.
Yeah, with 60% left, there is a possibility for 2 quick fights if they want, but optimally, they would just get a good one and be able to push onto the point. I don't know, time continues to tick forward. At this point, I don't know if they have a chance for multiple fights unless
there
it's
will
a really
not
extended one. But we're seeing both ults going to be ready for Albino Joe and Scotch to
and Shooter going in aggressively, drops the hammer. Gonna cost Treemeister his life, but Shooter, and more importantly, Albino Joe goes down. 30's down as well. Scotch does still have a res available, as there are 3 members of Wangjiang down early here. Scotch not opting for an early res there. His team just content with their man advantages. Jim's dropping the hammer. But where are the members of Wangjiang Tower? I'm sorry, Winstoni. I feel like they had more people here. Now, Albino Joe makes it back in time. He gets a 2-man res. Jill and Utek back on the board. 30 dropping the Deadeye out the front door, looking for anything, but Shooter Die intelligently blocking it. Now, Utek chased him down with the defense matrix. We see Treemeister just trying to buy time with the 8-balls.
Ooh, and a single-man ult for Wile E. Coyote. Wile E does not have his ultimate, so he's just there for the support. Teamic dropping an ultimate to try and keep his team healthy. This point has been going on long enough that any one member steps off, and that's going to be a quick cap coming out of the other side. Oh man, members dropping for the side of Wangjiang, dropping Winstoni Baloney, and
that's a recap. And this overtime ticks down fast, and 30 not there in time. And that's 2-1 lead taken by Wangjiang here. And man, that last fight, there's just it always happens with Wangjiang. There's this point where, like, okay, they're winning this fight. They're winning this fight. Or sorry, you're like, they're losing this fight. They're losing this fight, and then you're like, wait, they have more people on the point than the other team. What the hell happens?
Yeah, I have no idea. I was specifically trying to watch for it too, and I just couldn't tell how they ended up doing it. But yeah, Wangjiang just pulling ahead. I wonder if we have to look through the tape, see if there's any black magic that they're pulling, that they can just continue to win fights that it looks like they're losing. Maybe someone's off in the distance just providing damage that we can't see in the chaos of the storm. Yeah, both members running up quick. It looks like they're going to try and meet. At least Wangjiang was expecting to meet them in the middle. When Winstoni Baloney says, fuck that, we're going to run right to the point, I feel like that's a better idea.
The last time they were here happened where they just kind of stepped off the point accidentally.
And they've got a pretty good hold on this point. Everyone's pretty healthy, but the point unlocks now. And yep,
and
now here comes the
immediately
split.
takes that charge in, and wow, they force Winstoni off of this point really fast. Jim and TK Thrifty going down for their respective teams. As Treemeister jumping into the back line, trying to disrupt with 30 on the Tracer. They do get both the Mercies go down.
Yeah, and Treemeister has lost his max, so he's just going to have to pistol whip as much as possible. And ooh, the cap, because Evelite ended up not being close enough to the point to keep it open.
Yeah, they lost too many members there. They were going to lose that fight regardless. I think it looked like it intended to retreat after the Tracer and Diva both went down. And now we see a lot of ults coming out, as that was a pretty long first fight, so see if any of them are big to set this next one off.
Yeah, Scotch has his. Wile E. Coyote does drop. He had his... I don't know if Scotch will ult him just to bring him back. Not sure. It looks like he's opting not to. Yeah, they probably want to keep it in case more members drop. He can keep his team healthy as necessary at this point. But yeah, there's so many ults on each side. There are 4. Oop, there goes a drop. Albino Joe dropping again. They must be focusing him pretty well.
As both the Mercies go down to start this fight off.
Ooh,
Now both the Reinhardt's going to follow the D.Va ults, both being dropped simultaneously. Neither of them picking anybody up in this mirror fight as things finally starting to diverge. A DPS being traded from both sides. 30 looking for the point. Is Albino Joe going to bring Chilla back up? So this is looking good for Wangjiang, but a lot of the Winstoni respawns are in the neighborhood as Jim now onto the point. They do take out T-Mick. There's going to be Albino Joe solo healing. He's very low. No healers available for Wangjiang Tower as Shooter is charging onto this point.
Yeah, both of these teams are focusing the Mercies as much as possible, which is really important. Scotch has had his ult and would have been able to ult multiple members multiple times at this point, but he's just down at the most inopportune times. And that's a successful hold out of Wangjiang. It's 90%, so this is probably going to be the last fight. Scotch will hopefully have to use his ult here. Yep.
Albino Joe goes down though. 30 does get the stick. That's 4 picks really fast. As Scotch, I don't think is close enough to get this res. Or sorry, Albino Joe does not have the res, so
yeah,
to go watch his stuff.
That was a really interesting series of fights. They just ended up getting the people that they needed to.
Yeah, 30 gets a really huge pulse bomb onto Albino Joe very early in that fight. But they have to hold this point for a long time still. Only 1 cap required for Wangjiang to take this map.
And they are, I think, fully equipped to do it as long as they can kind of control the map, keep killing Albino Joe as much as possible as they have been.
Jim goes down early. Shudai dropping the 2-man ult as he's going for the pin onto Scotch. Looking for it, but he fails the combo. He does not get the kill on Scotch, but Scotch's going to go down anyways as all of the DPS come in. That is 5 members down in the blink of an eye. And that's going to be a delayed team kill with Jim coming back on the point. Does not find the charge. And Wangjiang gonna end the regular season breaking the curse by taking Lijiang Tower for, I think, the first time. Bad news for everyone else going into the playoffs. As the play of the game going to be Albino Joe, who had
I think this is the 4-man ult that he ends up
I'm
getting?
thinking so. As, yeah, jumps onto the point, 4-man ult, and this ends up turning into the game-winning fight, or the game-changing fight, as they hold this map on here off this play, recap, and never give the point back up.
Yeah, really impressive play out of both teams there. Again, Wangjiang just surviving the fights somehow, especially at the end there, because they were, or in the beginning, they looked like they were kind of losing it, and then miraculously they ended up maintaining. It'll be an interesting third match. Let's see if Wangjiang can end up going 3-0. Might spell disaster for Winstoni Baloney, as they might. I mean, they've got a lot of time, so they can practice more. But this is a strong Wangjiang squad. I think this is some of the best they've ever looked.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to say that because they've looked so good all season long. But they're definitely in form.
Well,
they're not stepping off the gas in this last week here.
But it's also against Winstoni Baloney, who is the second place team. And so that's the big thing to me. Like, when these teams met earlier this season, the matchup was, I think, a lot closer. And I don't think Winstoni Baloney's gotten worse. I think they've actually gotten quite a bit better. And Wangjiang is just keeping that differential between themselves and every other team pretty high.
For what it's worth, these guys played in week 1, and it was a 2-1 victory for Wangjiang, with their loss being a 2-3 loss on Lijiang, which started the curse. So, it was fairly one-sided, I believe, on the other 2 maps, but it was a long time ago. I might be incorrect.
Yeah, I don't remember, but
was a long time ago. Week
It was.
1. Opening and closing the season out with the same matchup is Wangjiang seemed pretty happy about it. They wanted to knock these guys off going into the last week. Winstoni, obviously, they wanted to step in and prove that they deserved the 2nd seed. Not the night they were hoping to have here, as they've looked pretty outclassed through these 2 maps.
They just have to go. They have to win this last one to really show that they're alive for the finals. Otherwise, it's going to be Winstoni Bologna defending the 2nd place title and then doing their best for redemption in the final round.
Yeah, at this point, I think Winstoni Bologna probably should be looking maybe not that far ahead. And they should probably be focusing on a team that was promised. You know, I don't know if you watch Game of Thrones, but when a prophecy is made, it always matters. And when a team prophesizes they're going to see you in the finals, they mean it. I think that's where Winstoni Bologna needs to be putting their eyes, because they should be scared. But
I'm not sure I know what you mean, because Lennyface plays later tonight, and they're still up in the air for getting to the finals. So I'm so confused, Swift.
All right, so gonna close out the season for these 2 teams here on Ilios, map that both of these teams have really liked.
Yeah, if Li Zhang is chaotic, I feel like Ilios is more chaotic. There's just so much open air. Evelite really thrives here. I'm surprised that he's not playing the Pharah and Wile E. Coyote was hovering it instead, unless Wile E is just screwing with Evelite. We'll see what they end up doing here.
Yeah, of these hovers, we do see UTech currently got the Widow selected. I think that will be final. I know it's something he plays a bit, and especially if they're expecting a Pharah out of Evelite, which this is, you know, all of Ilios pretty common Pharah territory, and given the situation, I wouldn't be surprised to see a bit of Widow out of UTech.
Yeah, and at the last second, 5 seconds remaining, Evelite switches back. He was on the Reaper, so I was going to be very surprised if he went from his main.
He's going to have a bad time here. There's a Widow and a Soldier on the other team, as they're running a solo tank comp out of Wangjiang Tower here. Just Shooter Die on the Reinhardt. You see pretty standard stuff coming out of Winstoni Bologna, as they have established on the point to begin with. 30, looking for some damage on the flank, but not going to find a whole lot.
Ooh, and they push. Treemeister got pushed off, but because he is Lucio, he skated back up around and onto the point. That would have been pretty impressive. I will say that even though they're only running 1 tank, TK Thrifty's Mei, any good Mei player can end up acting like a tank with all the utility shields, time wasting, freezing that ends up happening. She's ends up being pretty tanky.
Yeah, one thing I want to talk about before we get into this next fight, Swap we didn't notice until just now. Wile E. Coyote playing the Reinhardt, the 2nd thing for Winstoni, and Treemeister playing Lucio, so maybe just seeing if they get anything going with this role swap here is how Cast Their Curse gonna take Treemeister out, so Scotch solo healing for this next fight as UTech is dropping the infra sights, and Scotch goes down. That is no heals available for Winstoni in a 6v4 heading into this fight.
Yeah, that's never a good sign. Once you lose both your healers, it's essentially a lost fight. It's just how long until you lose it. At this point, however, Treemeister is back on the point. Albino Joe solo ulting TK Thrifty to try and cap the point for the first time anyways.
Yeah, Jim jumping in, looking for the big monkey. He's disrupting a lot as we see 30s drop the tack visor, but doesn't find a whole lot with it. UTech and Shooter Die now pick up 2 kills, and this is starting to look good for Wangjiang as they're pushing Winstoni pretty hard here.
Gotch had his ult and had 2 people down that he could have res. At the last second, UTech snipes him. And that ends up being the loss, for the point at least. So, heads up play out of UTech, knowing that Scotch was sitting there and hadn't used the res yet, so he probably had it.
Yeah, we saw that fight was pretty... Oh, not going to have time to break things down here as the being dropped by Treemeister. Shooter Die... Or sorry, Wile E. Coyote, not used to seeing that on the Reinhardt, dropping the hammer, but it doesn't end up amounting to much. There's 2 ults blown for... They do take Albino Joe out, and they actually take Shooter Die out as well, so maybe this setup was worth it, as that's 3 kills for Winstoni, and it should be a clean cap here, as they take out a few more opponents for good measure.
And
Evelite has switched onto the Genji here. As
it's working, and I'm actually a little bit surprised by that. But whatever they do to win, I'm completely okay with, because makes it much more exciting as we're going into this last map.
It's probably a good call given the game situation. UTech immediately answering with a switch onto Winston, though, as he was Widow mostly for Pharah duty there. So we see Wangjiang back to their bread and butter, so we shouldn't see them hesitating to engage like they were before, because they finally have their diver back. As Chillout is going to counter with the swap to Genji that I just caught.
Yeah.
We're seeing maybe the last fight coming down here. Shooter Die dropping the ult, gonna take out Treemeister, but immediately realized by Scotch. Albino Joe gonna go down to a pulse bomb from 30, as both Mercies are off the board here.
Yeah, and Albino Joe had his ult, and he's gonna have to come in. Thrifty's gonna have to do his best to stay on this point as everyone else runs up. I don't think there's gonna be anyone anywhere near the point in time, and yeah, that's gonna be the first map for Ilios over to Winstoni Bologna.
Yeah, the one fight that really sticks out to me in that game was the fights where they took out Treemeister and Scotch super early. They had the 6v4, but Wangjiang, because they were running such a different comp to what they normally do, primarily without UTech on one of the dive tanks, they didn't really have a good way to break the line, because their DPS was Mei, Soldier, Widow. So even though they were in 6v4 with no heals on the enemy team, they didn't know how to just dive through that Reinhardt's, and it bought enough time for Treemeister to get back to the point, so ultimately Winstoni, they held the point through it all. And I think that's why we saw Wangjiang was happy to swap back to that Winston. It gave them their line breaker, even though it didn't end up winning them the map. Their fights started looking much more Wangjiang-y after that point.
Yeah, these teams, I'm surprised at how well they can focus the Mercy. And as a Mercy man, and I'm sure you're familiar with it too, getting focused that hard is terribly annoying, because you essentially spend more time running back to the point than ends up being than actual utility by healing anyone. And that ends up deciding most of the points, because once you've got a healer down, any pick ends up meaning that person's probably down and isn't coming back, and damage persists a lot more. That aside, UTech kills Evelite, and 30 picks up 2 T-Mic and Shooter Die with the Pulse Bomb and some additional shots. Scotch getting chased, ringing around the Rosie by UTech, and ends up, or sorry, yeah, Albino Joe drops. Or no, it was Jim.
TK50 trying to catch Winstoni with their pants down there, going for a solo cap, but doesn't amount to anything as they turn back and obviously kill the Reaper. And now we're seeing pretty good ult economy coming out of Winstoni as they're close on a lot of their ults here.
Yeah, both the Mercy ults and some of the tank ults are pretty close. UTech 85%, Jim 96, and Wily Coyote 91. Evelite, I think, really wants the Dragon Blade, as sitting at 73%. He's just raising that as quickly as possible.
Yeah, we see Winston ult coming out early out of Jim here, going for the disruption, looking for the boops. PK50 though drops a nice Reaper ult onto the point. This is looking all right for Wangjiang as Scotch answers with the 2-man res on the Wily and 30, then goes down for his crimes.
Yeah, the Albino Joe had been down, so he can't res, Shooter Die, T-Mic, or Chill Out. And this looks to be like a failed cap. Or a successful hold.
Good res coming out of Scotch there, just as things were looking dicey. He turns the fight back in his team's advantage, turns into an Evelite Dragon Blade to finish up the fight. And now we're already looking at 80% for Winstoni Bologna, as they were thinking about pushing here, but gonna ultimately choose not to. The last fight available here, the only ult currently available is Albino Joe with the Resurrect, and Shooter Die, the only one that's really close. So this is gonna be tough for Wangjiang, as Albino Joe jumps straight onto this point with his team. They're looking for picks through the Lucio ult, but 30's putting down a lot of damage from this backline, and Jim goes down very early. They do get a boop on a chill up though, as Winstoni's gotta be careful. They're all stepping away from this point here, even though they still have a lot of members alive.
Yeah, now they're back on the point, and I think they were told, do not leave the point no matter what you do. And yeah, this is going to be a second map on Ilios for Winstoni Bologna.
Close to a disaster for Winstoni to have 4 or 5 alive and just step off the point. They had just the splittest of a second left before that would have been a cap by Wangjiang, but Fortunately for them, they get back to the point in time, they hold, and they go up 2-0 here on Ilios.
Let's see if it ends up happening. A decisive 3-0 ends up meaning that this Winstoni Bologna team is alive. They just needed to change up some of what they were picking.
Yeah, I don't know. Even if they 3-0 this, I'm not sure how much credit I'm willing to give them just because of the situation. I don't know. Even with the picks have been mostly serious out of Wangjiang, you know, nothing as blatant as the 3 support and Bastion comp that CU in the finals was running last week. Mentally, they might not be 100% in this. The call-outs might not be as serious. It's hard to flip that switch when you're in what's essentially a televised scrim. And because when it did matter, it was so different.
Right.
But both these teams pushing forward onto the point here. TK50 goes down very early, though, 30 with the Deadeye, not literally.
Yeah, but
he's going to take a chill out as well.
That's both of the damage dealers down, and now Winstoni Bologna can just move forward. Ooh, Jim ends up getting booped into the pit. Very subtle out of teammate, and then, yeah, UTech picking up 30 as well.
Yeah, that's a chance for Wangjiang to start pushing back onto this point here. Not going down without a fight, as Winstoni are trying to play from behind this Orisa shield, and UTech is playing up in the face of danger. They took out Treemeister in this all, and UTech is enough to zone the other 3 away. It's a cap for Wangjiang, as they're not done pushing. As they go forward, they get 2 more kills.
Evlight had been so close to the point, he could have been staying on it, throwing shurikens at the back of Zarya. Just chose not to, kept retreating up onto the steps, so they were able to cap that point, and now they're just forced a little bit farther back, trying to get the team back together. I think it's just so important, though, to have that first point try and last as long as possible, even if you're going to go down, because the game can't advance, as they've got both members on it. Ooh, there's the Deadeye coming out at the high noon, and no one picked up as Albano Joe ults to bring back Shooter Die, and there's a lot of ult economy on the side of Wangjiang, but T-Mic ends up getting booped into the point, or into the hole before he
can big Ramside surge. TK50 drops the rocket barrage into it, and that was nice. That was not looking good. Oh, Scotch with the 4-man res. Gonna turn this fight back into his team's favor. As they're pushing forward here, they take out Albino Joe, but they still lose 2 for it. It's a 4v4 in and around the point right now, as Chillout is very deep in no man's land, but he gets a 2k while he's back there, and it's looking like a hold for Wangjiang here.
Yeah, that fight was pretty chaotic, all running along this front line out of Winstoni Bologna's side. Everyone just scattered. I thought there was a chance that they were going to get it, especially with the 3 or 4-man res out of Scotch. But yeah, just another good hold out of Wangjiang, as there's 95, so just a couple percentage points left.
We see Evlight coming in with the Dragon Blade, trying to make a big play for his team to take this 3-0 here, as they're getting some good kills. 30 looking for the Deadeye, but once again doesn't find anything. But this is a slight man advantage for Winstoni, but 30 goes down. The 3v2 on the point right now.
1v3, as T-Mic is the only man alive, and this looks to be a cap, as no one's close enough for Wangjiang.
Yeah, good fight out of Winstoni there. Not going down just yet.
My ultimate is almost ready.
We should see another fight with a lot of ults available. Wangjiang in the better ult economy here. They are actually not that far away from 6 ults in the grand scheme of things.
And on the opposite side, Wily Coyote and 30 are pretty far away. They'd use their ults at the end of that to try and keep the point alive and in their favor, but didn't end up being possible.
They have count, as we see the reach around coming out of Wangjiang here, but Jim trying to disrupt in his backline. He's putting down a lot of pressure on the healers from the opposing team, and he's going to drop the monkey ult here, as T-Mic has to drop the sound barrier to keep his healers alive, as Albino Joe does go down early in this fight, but they get multiple for it. Scotch not holding on to that res, takes the 2-man. Smart play from him, as this is now a nice man advantage for Wangjiang, for Winstoni. As 30 dropping the Deadeye. Gonna fight TK50, so I guess it was worth
Yeah, Albino Joe ended up dropping pretty early there, has to walk back to the point, and we see Winstoni Bologna pushing pretty far forward, picking up UTech and providing enough damage. Yeah, to
These are
drop shooter die. These are huge. Albino Joe
that
has
was
to
big though.
ult.
30 goes down, and now Albino Joe takes the rest. They have a huge ult advantage going into this fight, and there will not be a 30 available. Let's see how Wangjiang use what they have, as they have 3 ults, and there's some big ones. As
There's the
Graviton
first
Surge,
one.
not going to do much. Gets Evolite, but TK50 going to get 2 with their Rocket Barrage, including Scotch. Not looking great for Winstoni here. Albino Joe does go down, as they bought time for 30 to get back on the point. He's trying to put pressure onto that Pharah in the air, and he's going to take TK50 down. Shooter Die drops a nice hammer, slowing this fight down, but Jim, the Mad Monkey, going to pop out of that Reinhardt charge. He's buying a lot of time, and now Evolite gets the Dragon Blade, looking for kills.
Yeah, there's
Maybe not
5 on the
gonna find
point.
him, maybe
There's
not
no
going
one.
to need him.
Ooh, Chillout ends up stepping on the point. Exactly what his team needs. Albino Joe
Oh,
gets
a
back to the
nice
point and
Deadeye
instantly
out
goes
of
down.
30. That should be the game ender there. It was a really nice attempt, but ultimately going to be a 3-0 in favor of Winstoni Bologna in their last game of the season here. And the play of the game going to be 30. He had a few actually really big ones that we weren't able to draw a lot of attention to in the heat of the moments, but watch here as he's jumping into Albino Joe, gets the nice stick, and this turned into the cap for, into the hold, when that was that fight that looked like everything was going to go really badly, and then they stepped back out of the point.
Yeah, that delivery mechanism of the pulse bomb being delivered to another member by Albino Joe, and then 30 just being able to pick up multiple people, meant that that point could stay alive and they could take it from Winstoni Bologna. So yeah, that we have that for first match tonight. Winstoni Bologna ends up going 1-2 against Wangjiang, so Wangjiang's gonna have that first place seed, and Winstoni Bologna second place. So that's it for this first game. Any final remarks?
No, that's good enough for me. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll be back in just a moment here with our second match tonight. We've got another very riveting series between very aggressive Genji and Lenny Face to determine who will have the honor of not participating in the playoffs. So stay tuned.